From the studios of Foxboro Cable Access, located in the center of Foxborough, Massachusetts, you are watching Around Foxborough.
Welcome back to Around Foxborough. My name is Joy Love. I'm your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have very, very exciting guests, local guests today, and then this is our special edition. Thank you so much for coming to Around Foxborough today. So we have our town manager, Bill Keegan. Nice to see you, Bill.
Nice to see you, Jerry.
Thank you so much. And then Brian Earley, and then Vice President and General Manager at Patriot Place. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Great to see you. So just before we start our interview, I just want to tell our audience and you that this is my first in-person interview after the pandemic. So it is very, very special for me. So thank you so much for being here.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be doing something more normal like this.
Absolutely. Right. So before we go into our topic, which we want to talk about the commuter rail between Foxborough and Boston, but I just want to introduce you and to our audience, if you can introduce yourself, and then what you do to our town, and then at the Patriot Place. Great.
Sure. So thank you, Jerry, for having me. I'm Bill Keegan. I'm the town manager in Foxborough, and I've been here for almost 10 years. Hard to believe. Then we were just talking earlier that it's been almost 3 years since the last time we had this conversation. So time flies when you're having fun, I guess. It's been an interesting few years, and it's been difficult for everyone in the community. But we're going to talk about a topic today, which is glad to see coming back, because we were very excited when it first happened, that it was something that we've been working on for many, many years, and we're able to make it happen in terms of with respect to train service to Foxborough and to the Gillette Stadium. So this is my role here in Foxborough, of course, is the Chief Administrative Officer. I work with all the town's departments. I work directly with the Craft Group and Gillette Stadium with a lot of their events, and certainly want to make sure that things happen safely and make sure that our economic growth continues to happen in the right direction. And this project that we've been working on for several years now has been something that has been a dream come true, because we've always wanted it collectively, but it's been difficult because of the different pieces of the puzzle that have to be put together when you do these kinds of projects. But this one was in place, and then COVID hit, and we had to shut down the train for a couple of years, but now it's back. And we're very pleased to see that on Monday this past week, we had the first trains were running back to Gillette Stadium. So I'll turn it back to you and let Brian say a few more words about that.
Sure. So Brian, if you can tell our audience what you do in general.
Sure. Well, again, thank you, Jerry, for having Bill and I here. A very important part of sort of the recovery of the pandemic. Believe it or not, we're still recovering, and we will be recovering for some time. But my role is, I've been with the Craft Group for 15 years and overseeing Patriot Place. So think of, if you're up at the stadium, anything outside the stadium falls under my purview in terms of relationships with all the great partner tenants that we have at Patriot Place, the restaurants, the hotels. So oversee all that. We have a great marketing team. We have a great leasing team, our operations team, which keeps Patriot Place looking as best they can for our guests who come, and they're back, which is great. We're back to nearly 100% of our traffic from prior to COVID, which is a huge milestone for us. And as Bill said, we're here today to talk about another milestone, which is the return of the commuter rail service from Foxborough to Boston, and also, of course, Boston to Foxborough, and that reverse commuting aspect. And almost the entire tenure since I've been with the Craft organization, we've been working on getting to the point we got to in 2019, which was the launch of the first pilot program. And what happened in the next 2+ years since COVID hit and the service was shut down is we were able to refine the program. And we're not calling this a sort of a restart. This is a new pilot program that is new mainly because we were able to work closely with the MBTA on addressing the issues that we heard from many of the residents of Foxborough, and that was it was a schedule that didn't work for us in 2019. The times in and out of Boston didn't work, but we heard that, we listened, and today we have I think a very robust schedule that helps the commuters who are now getting back to Boston, and the times work great as opposed to what we had initially. And we were also seeing a very different type of commuter because of sort of the outcome of COVID in terms of their timing, that the amount of days they need to go into Boston, into their office, or reverse commute out to Foxborough. But again, with yesterday's launch of the new pilot, we're very excited to come full circle again.
Wonderful. So how was yesterday's event? I missed it. Tell us what happened.
So the first train arrived around 5:49 a.m. and there was a second one at 6:49 and a third at 7:49 in the morning. So those three trains all had passengers going into Boston, and was particularly interesting to see that there were a number of people coming out of Boston and stopping here in Foxborough. So that's a good sign, because that means that it's being used in both directions, and that was always the goal. It was something that we didn't actually think it would happen the first day.
No.
But it was a surprise to all of us, but I think it was great to see, and it's obviously an indication that the schedule, as Brian indicated, is an improvement over what it was in the initial stages of the first pilot. So this is a important step forward, but it was great to see people there. Dunkin' Donuts was there with coffee to welcome people in the morning, and pumpkin donuts for this time of year, which is everybody's favorite. So it was great to see that people came, had a smile on their face, and was really glad. And the free parking was huge. I mean, that's something that we initially, when we talked about establishing the train, was a big plus for commuters, because a lot of folks can't get to a parking space in Mansfield. I know that Sharon was also struggling with having enough spaces for people to get on the train. But here at Gillette Stadium, they have 500 free parking spaces available, and that's something that most people, that could save them significant dollars in terms of their commuting costs just by saving on the parking alone. So it's a big plus to have that, and to have that facility. I'm really glad that the Kraft Group could partner with the town to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it truly has been a partnership, and we talked a lot with the state. How important it was to Governor Baker for this to be a public-private partnership, and everyone has our stakeholders. The Kraft organization is certainly a stakeholder in terms of providing the facility of the train station, and the partnership with the town is just incredible to work together to make something happen, and then the state makes up the third leg of our stool. But none of this would happen without the partnership that we have, and it just the support of Bill. Bill's been a tremendous partner of ours for 10 years, and I wish it was going to be another 10 years for all of us. But so it's the pilot yesterday, the first day yesterday, as Bill said, we had giveaways, we had Pat Patriot, we had cheerleaders, what you typically would expect to see at Patriot Place and Gillette Stadium. We have some great giveaways for folks coming to the station over the next week or so through our Patriot Place Advantage app that everyone can download and check in when you get to the train station. You get a couple minutes before you check in, and lo and behold, you're going to get some sort of a free offer at Patriot Place. So we were excited. The numbers were very much better than I expected them to be, and coming out again, really not knowing how everyone's commuting pattern is going to be coming out of COVID, but people were there 5:49. It's 6:49 when I was there. It was great to see people showing up and taking advantage of what's probably the greatest bargain in commuting right now. Think about gas prices. Mm-hmm. It's a very expensive to be driving a car, and now we're providing a Zone 4 pricing model, which for commuters know the difference between Zone 4, 5, and 6. It's a significant savings every month, and then the free parking, as Bill mentioned, is savings of nearly $80 a month, which you go to any other station in the area, you're not going to have that benefit. And I think one of the biggest benefits is we provide a relief from the congestion that you're seeing at other stations. And that was the case back in 2019, and it's becoming, it's getting back to that situation with challenges with capacity. So it's, now that we've fixed the schedule to be conducive with what people wanted, the free parking, the amenities, a very 24-hour security, well-lit, well-managed station. I think there's no reason for anyone in Foxborough not to use the Patriot Place Foxborough station. I just can't think of a reason not to.
That's really wonderful. And then I feel like this is kind of like a flashback from 3 years ago that we talked about this very topic, and then we never expected this challenge to happen. And then so in between that, you said you had a significant amount. Is there any new partnership that you brought in? I know you had the parking situation well lit, and then is there any that you are new to this project?
So I don't think that it's new in terms of how we approached it. I think that the most significant part is what we mentioned earlier, was the fact that the schedule was so much better than what it was in the past. And so I think probably having a renewed support by the MBTA, the Department of Transportation, to actually help with fixing that schedule was a big plus for all of us. I think the timing of this is actually quite good in a sense too, because the South Attleboro station has been closed in the region, which because they're trying to rebuild the bridge that goes over the tracks, and that has been closed. So therefore, this provides another opportunity of relief for people that are commuters from the region to come to Foxborough as an option. And it takes pressure off of Attleboro too, because Attleboro and Mansfield, because this is, as we talked about, the parking opportunity creates a real good option for people to use, and a much cheaper option than would be otherwise. I thought it was interesting yesterday morning. I tried to get there for the 6:49 train, and I got stuck in traffic on 95. So I couldn't help but think, I said, if I could take the train, the train would certainly help relieve that traffic congestion on 95, at the same time provide a nice, affordable option for the commuters themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Traffic certainly has picked up quite a bit. But when you look at, gas prices are coming back down. They're starting to get below $4. But it's still a much more reasonable and convenient way to get in and out of Boston, and certainly along the way, it's the Norwoods, it's the Dedham, it's Ruggles, wherever you need to go along the way. Why anyone would choose to drive their car as a single driver into Boston dealing with the traffic, it just really doesn't make sense. So I think we didn't have that situation back in 2019 as much on the cost of commuting with a vehicle, but it was definitely still a bargain then, and now it's a much greater bargain to take the train, and you can get things done. It's a very efficient, and certainly the trains, from a COVID standpoint, they've done everything to make sure that they're safe, clean, sanitized. So I just think I hate what happened in the last 2.5 years. But we've improved a product because of what happened in the last 2.5 years, and I think we've created something much better for the community.
I think it's important to go back to the reasons why the train is so important. We know that it is certainly a great relief valve for parking up, for challenges for people getting to and from Gillette Stadium on major event days. So we know we had the train has been there for Patriot games as well as major concerts that have certainly been a huge help for that. But beyond that, what's particularly important is the fact that it does create economic development opportunities for the town, and for Gillette Stadium and for the craft group itself, because the whole idea of having the train was that we could actually bring commuters out of Boston into Foxborough, at the same time bringing people from Foxborough into Boston. So we see it as the advantage in both directions, and that by having the folks that come out of Boston work in Foxborough at Patriot Place helps our local economy, helps the value of their property, and at the same time, the tax benefits that we gain by the meals tax and all the taxes that come from new development that occur at Gillette Stadium is a huge plus for the community. So it's important that we all banded together to make this happen. Not just for one entity versus another, it was for us collectively, because we all, for the regional economy as well as for the town and the craft group itself.
And it's not just, we have certainly, I mentioned this 3 years ago, we had plans and still have plans for developing a significant office park at Patriot Place, and we're talking about jobs, 3,000 new jobs would be created. And we're working very hard on what that now needs to look like coming out of the pandemic, because we're seeing that there are people now want to work much closer to where they live as opposed to be commuting. So it's kind of a different scenario. But one of the developers, when we talked to them about what our plans are, having the commuter rail station in Foxborough for the reverse commute for people to come out of Boston, because that's where a lot of young talent exists for different, whether it's in the pharmaceuticals or the lab work that you see happening everywhere. You need that young talent, and in order to get them out to where they want to work, the ability to be on public transportation is critical. We thought about that a lot in 2019. Now it is absolutely galvanized us that has to be in place for us to be successful. And it's not just us, it's up and down Route 1, all around town. The opportunity to bring talented workers out of Boston, as well as the sort of the needs in the hospitality industry. And certainly we're very much into the hospitality industry with the restaurants and hotels, and it's we've all seen the challenges of staffing. So any opportunities to bring folks to the area for working opportunities I think is critical to really the growth of the economic engine that is Foxborough.
Absolutely. And I know that movie studio and then the new development with the Brigham expansion. So those are the commuters, especially from Boston, coming into Foxborough. So that's definitely new than 3 years ago.
And I think, as Brian mentioned, that a lot of the young talent that comes out of Boston, there's a lot of young kids that have gone to school in Cambridge, in Boston, at all the major universities, and they've only known anything but all they've known is public transportation. And a lot of them still don't own cars, and so this is an option for them to come to work here without having to drive here. And this is something that we've had a vision collectively for many years as to what it would take to help inject new talent into the region. And we had to find the vehicle, and this is really what it was, to get the folks out from Boston into Foxborough.
You mentioned Red Sky Studios, which opened up earlier this year at the former Terminals location, and they've done a wonderful job of revamping that facility into literally a world-class stage and studio, and they're right now doing an HBO program for Julia Child. And so you essentially have Hollywood now in Foxborough. And one of the critical aspects of putting that deal together with Red Sky, who was originally in downtown Boston, was we've got to have public transportation. And you got to promise us it's coming, because we're going to need that. That's where their talent pool comes out of. And so they benefit greatly. It's just a short walk from the platform to Red Sky Studios. And who would have thought 3 years ago that we were going to have a Hollywood studio here in Foxborough? But that's one of the economic engines that were driven by the ability to have the commuter rail here.
Absolutely. And I was speaking to Senator Feeney earlier the weekend about the movie studio, how much he fought for this to happen in Foxborough. And then, I didn't know the backstory about the commuter rail, but I was actually fortunate to be working on the last season for the Julias.
You were?
And then I had to cut my hair for 60 years. But I had to go far to be on the movie set very early. And then, now it's right here. So it's very amazing. And then also I know for the fact a lot of young actors who don't have cars and then who are struggling with commuting, now this train is right there, and then hop on and then can go to the movie set as well.
Absolutely.
So it's really fantastic.
I mean, the entire working world is changing and evolving. I always say this, I'll speak for myself as a dinosaur. It's hard for me to get out of my car as I'm just so used to it, but trust me, if I had the option I only come from Franklin to Foxborough, I don't have that much of an opportunity to take a train, I would do it in a second, because I hate paying the prices for gas right now, and I just don't have the option. Bill doesn't have the option, but if we did, even as late into our careers as we are, I would do it in a second.
Absolutely. And then I want to mention about the noise study that you've done. So can you mention our audience what's the relationship between the town and then?
Yeah, so some of the concerns were expressed early on that the trains themselves would in fact cause an issue for some of the residents that live in and around where the station is currently located. So that was a concern that we heard, the selectmen heard, the town heard initially, but the evaluation of it has not yielded any real strong results in a negative way. So in fact, I think the reality is that and it's periodic to begin with, but having said that, the noise itself is very, very limited.
Yeah, when the train comes in, obviously the ones you'd be most concerned would be the first one in the morning, 5:49. It comes in, it's quiet down there, and we've not heard any issues. Right. And that was, basically the noise study that was done ahead of time ensured that we were not going to have an issue, and so far we haven't in this nearly 6 months of the original pilot, and certainly as we start up, because these trains have actually been coming in for the last couple months prior to yesterday, right. Just getting the system work and kind of geared up to make these trains moving in that direction. So they've been coming in and there've been no issues.
Great. And then also about the security you mentioned earlier, 24-hour security
Sure.
And free parking. That's just significant. I don't think any station has this.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this 3 years ago, and my children are 3 years older. But when I look at some of the other commuter rail stations, the towns do the best they can, but there's, if something were to happen, someone coming off a late train or even an early morning train, they're not in the greatest locations to be reacted to as quickly. But at Patriot Place, there's cameras on those platforms constantly, right into our Patriot Place command center, and so God forbid anything were to happen, we have the immediate response of our 24-hour security, our mobile units. Certainly, Foxborough Police, it would be engaged very quickly. So I think that's another real big plus, and it was the same plus we had 3 years ago. I think it's the safest commuter rail platform and station you'll find anywhere, mainly because of our ability to monitor it, from a security standpoint.
If you just to go up and see where the station is located, and the parking is located just adjacent to the road, and the entrance actually goes underneath the road, and then winds its way up to the actual platform. And it's very clean. It's very well lit. It's an area which, you always hear the concerns from folks who live in not as safe locations about what could potentially happen. But this is, as Brian pointed out, it's well lit. It's really safe, and there's plenty of opportunity for people to park safely, and not have to worry about their vehicle either, for that matter. So yep. I think that's there's some many pluses by having it where it's located.
And I can't believe it's free, and because a lot of times, like I lived in Dedham, and then I've used different commuter stations, and you always have to pay monthly and stuff. So how did that happen?
I think it was really an agreement that the Craft organization made with the MBTA. We really wanted to do something would be a differentiator, to take the burden off and really get folks comfortable with this new station. And changing people's mental models is not easy to do, no matter what you're selling and offering. So we felt that was an opportunity to really demonstrate and kind of show off the station in its best form by taking that burden off folks. And I was very proud of our organization to be able to continue that even after nearly 3 years dealing with COVID. We said we were going to restart or have this new pilot program. We also said very strongly we're going to continue the free parking.
Amazing, just so amazing. And then thank you so much for negotiating on behalf of our users, and it's just so huge. And I want to listen to maybe short-term goal and long-term goal for this program. I know you worked so hard to get to where we are here, but what is maybe in 5 years or 10 years mark goal that you have?
I would say, what I see is that it, as we talked about, it spurs economic development in the region. I think a goal would be an equal number of people arriving to Patriot Place Foxborough daily as leave to go into Boston, because we've built some very creative places for people to work closer to home, but still needing that opportunity to bring them out from the city, that bring workers out to the city, and they do it seamlessly. I'm imagining scooters leaving from the station and moving their way around, whether it's town or around Patriot Place. Almost the feel of, and I don't want to use the word in a negative way, it's a very positive way, but an urban feel to a suburban location in all the best things in terms of the amenities and the things that we could do by really changing the vibrancy of how people work and how where they choose to work. I think it's really the next opportunity that the town of Foxborough has.
So I think the first goal was to get the train in place, and that's been achieved. The second goal was to start developing things around it, and the third is really expanding and turning it into more of a hub. So I see that as, I think the longer term goal is to actually connect the downtown of Foxborough into Patriot Place by virtue of a bike path, other ways to get there that would connect it and make it easier for commuters to use the train. The development around the station was something that was, as I pointed out earlier, is very, very important to the regional economy, not just Foxborough and not to just the Kraft Group, but to all of us collectively. And it is going to serve as a spur to develop that new development now, because of the fact that this is going to bring the talent here. It's also going to provide regional transportation opportunities that we didn't have before. So I do think that's actually, those wheels are already in motion. Unfortunately, I won't be here to see most of it happen, but I am going to watch from afar, because I'm going to pay close attention to see how this develops overall over the next several years, because I do believe that the wheels are in motion now because of this train coming back.
I think when you see the demand for housing, for instance, Foxborough is such a hot housing in terms of demand. Having the commuter rail not only improves the value of housing and things, which ultimately will help with the schools, and it's really important when you look at the towns that have commuter rail stations, how valuable that is to the housing side of things. But as this economic development starts happening, and I think we know there's a need for housing, it could spur other forms of housing opportunities in the town, similar to what you've seen in Walpole, Norfolk. Those are towns, small little sleepy towns that have commuter rail stations, and they really chose to do something about their housing situation. So we're exploring that with Bill and Paige and at the town, just to see what the next needs might be from a housing standpoint. Whether we can accomplish that with land that we own around Patriot Place, or just in general how it happens throughout the town, because it's certainly something that's very important.
It's very interesting how residential value can go up because the commuter rail stop. I just want to share a quick personal story. When my grandmother and my grandfather, way before I was born, bought the land very cheap after World War II, there was no train. And then now there's a train 8 minutes away from where my mom lives, where the land that was bought right after. So the value went so significantly crazy, where just an example, when my grandma passed, that they had to pay $3 million for inheritance tax only to inherit because of the train. And then they were very lucky. It was 8 minutes away, but there are so many people that they bike to the station.
That's right.
But because of the station, that's close. So I think the Patriots Place, this new station, will maybe create more, buzz, and then people willing to come to Foxborough. Is there anything that you're doing to people in Boston to promote to come to Foxborough and some event, anything that you are?
I think one of the most important thing we can do is we have jobs. We have jobs for folks. And there's whether it's at the stadium with the number of part-time jobs, event day jobs. Patriot Place probably has 1,500 job openings available at any time. It's just it's unfortunately there's just a staffing problem everywhere. But if if commuting and access to your job can be solved with a commuter rail, I think it's one of the best things we've offered to anyone from downtown Boston all the way out who may want to just they want to come from Norwood to Foxborough to work. Now we have the ability to do that through a reverse commute.
So I think the MBTA will certainly do a job of trying to get the word out in terms of commuter access to the service into Foxborough now. But they have the biggest venue in the state to actually help advertise that. So they do put the word out at the stadium during major events that the train's now available and that they will be having regular service. And so that's something that you hear on the radio now. Even during games, that you hear the advertisement for it. So I think it's the fact that they are who they are, and we're able to and have the venue that can actually help advertise is huge. So but I do think the MBTA also will expand. Loves to be able to expand its offerings to people. So this is an opportunity for them too. So we see nothing but good things from that end.
And we know that the MBTA needs to be very smart in what they're doing, and I think this has shown this pilot and the effort that's gone into it is very intelligently done. We're minimizing the risk to the state. That's part of this partnership that we're taking on some burden here. So I think it really provides a real model for the future. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we get bogged down in the current, like today's problem on the T. And things, but we really have got to have an eye towards the future if we're going to obviously continue to be successful. And I think this is certainly a major eye towards the future.
Sure, and there's a website that people can learn more about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So.
So you've got the two websites actually. Yep. Foxborough Station at patriot-place.com, and then https www.gilletstadium.com/mbta-foxborough-station. So I'm sure they'll put those up on the screen for you, and people can
just
follow.
Type in the MBTA station,
there you
rail
go.
station at
Commuter
Foxborough.
rail, that's probably the easiest way to do it. Thank you,
You'll find all the information you need. And most importantly, check out the schedule. Because if you're thinking of the schedule from 2019, it's a lot different and a lot more commuter friendly, which is probably the most important work we did over the last 2 years.
Now I feel like our job is to get on the train and explore Boston, park our car for free, and then just go sightseeing as well too.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I hope that our conversation will bring more attention to this station and then our project. And then I really appreciate you coming here today. And then I learned so much from both of you today about behind the scene and all the efforts that put in over the years for us to thrive in this town. I really appreciate your commitment to our town.
Well, thank you for having us. And I think we accomplished a lot 3 years ago when we were here, and I think we accomplished a lot more today.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us, Jerry, and it's always good to be able to see you and glad to see you back on the air. So
thank you very
great
much.
To be, great
well,
to be
thank
here.
you, Bill, so
great
much.
To see you.
Thank
All right,
you for
good
coming
to see
here,
you.
Brian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for our audience for being with us today for Around Foxborough Special Edition. And our website is fcatv.org. You can go to Video on Demand, Studio Show, and then click on Around Foxborough to see more episodes. See you next time.